Hola, it's Bible study time. It's so exciting to come forward and do these Bible studies. I tell you, if I was a quitter, you guys, my life would be so much easier. Sometimes I lay in my bed at night and I think about it and I say, if I think back on my life, all the things that I just could have just walked away from. If I was just a quitter, I'd just walk away from it and quit and then go do something new. Life would probably be not as fulfilling, but I would probably not have as many things going on. That's why this chapter that I'm reading of today is very relevant to that. You guys, we're going to be speaking to the book of Job today and Job, the patience of Job. You know what I mean? Like, the reason why I brought that up about being a quitter is because this is my third time doing this, okay? Third time. But because I got to keep my word and that's just how I was raised, I don't know how to deviate from it. Here I am. So, we're going to be speaking to the book of Job today. I'm super excited about it. But as usual, you guys, as with all of my Bible studies, let's get this out the way. If you find my content relevant, if you find it thought-provoking, if you find it unique, if you find it worthy of your time or your interest, if you find it thought-provoking, any of that, please subscribe, please click like, and please share. I look forward to come and deliver you all thought-provoking Bible studies each week. And also, daily, I look to deliver thought-provoking content, rather in written word on michellemayer.com, which is my website, my blog, or on my Facebook page, Michelle A. Mayer. I have videos that I upload daily to help it to be an easier walk for you daily and weekly. You know what I mean? Just something to give you some motivation, something you can ponder spiritually, to get you through it, right? Because we're all going through something. There's not one person alive that ain't going through something. Okay, so it's all just to keep us going and keep us motivating, because I look at other people's content and they motivate me and I just pass it on. And that's what it's about. So let's get it going. I'm gonna give a prayer up so that I'm covered in my discernment of the word, and we will begin. Heavenly Father, I come before you in love as always, looking for you. I ask that you come and you cover me with your attention and your presence and your protection. Protect this space. Protect all that I'm expounding upon today. Let the words of my heart be acceptable in your sight. Speak through me. Let the words that come through me be your words. Let this not be about me. I ask that you use me as your vessel today. Speak your truth to the children in the simplest, most uncomplicated, expressive way. I love you so deeply and I thank you. In God's name I pray, amen. All right, y'all. Okay, so we are going to be out of the book of Job, but we're going to be reading out of chapter 16, verse 10 through 14. Okay, and then we're going to go over we're gonna be reading out of the book of Job. Let me retract that. We're gonna be reading out of the book of Job, and we're gonna be reading chapter 1, verse 6 through 11. And then we're going to go from chapter 16, verse 10 through 14, and chapter 4, verse 17 and 18. Okay? So let's get it started. Chapter 1, verse 6. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also amongst them. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? And Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job? And there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil. And Satan answered the Lord and said, Doeth Job fear God or not? Hast not thou made a hedge upon him, and about his house, and about all that he hath on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increasing the land. But put forth thine hand now, and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face. Okay, let's go over here to chapter 16, verse 10 through 14. They have gaped upon me with their mouth, and they have smitten me upon their cheek reproachfully. They have gathered themselves together against me. God hath delivered me to the ungodly, and turned me over into the hands of the wicked. I was at ease, but he hath broken me asunder. He hath also taken me by my neck, and shaken me to pieces, and set me up for his mark. His archers compass me round about. He cleaveth my reins asunder, and doeth not spare. He poureth out my gall upon the ground. And chapter 4, verse 17 and 18. Shall mortal man be more just than God? Shall a man be more pure than his maker? Behold, he put no trust in his servants, and his angels he charged with folly. I want to put a mark on that because we're going to come back to that. So, this is the story of Job. I assume that many people know it, but you all may not. So, I love to be the person to introduce it to you. This is a story about a man, a very wealthy man in the East. He was actually the wealthiest man in the East, as the Bible says. He had a tremendous amount of head count in form of his household and in form of his flock. He had a tremendous amount of oxen and sheep and things of that nature. It says here in the Apocrypha, the Testament of Job, chapter 3, For I had 130,000 sheep. Of these I separated 7,000 for the clothing of orphans and widows and of needy and sick ones. And I had a herd of 800 dogs who watched my sheep, and beside these 200 to watch my house. And I had 9 mills working for the whole city, and ships to carry goods. And I sent them into every city, and into the villages of the feeble and sick, and to those that were unfortunate. And I had 340,000 nomadic donkeys, and of these I set aside 500. And the offspring of these are ordered to be sold, and the proceeds to be given to the poor and the needy. For from all of the lands the poor came to meet me, for the 4 doors of my house were open, each being in charge of a watchman who had to see whether there were any people coming asking for alms, and whether they would see me sitting at one of the doors, and that they could leave through the other and to take whatever they needed. And I also had 30 immovable tables set to all hours for the strangers alone. And I also had 12 tables spread for the widows. And if anyone came asking for alms, he found food on my table to take all he needed. And I turned nobody away to leave my door with any empty stomach. I also had 3,500 yokes of oxen. And I selected of these 500 and had them tend to the plowing. And with these I had done all the work in each field by those who would take it in charge. And I laid aside the income for their crops for the poor on the table. I also had 50 bakeries from which I sent the bread to the table of the poor, and I had slaves selected for their service. There were also some strangers who saw my good will. They wished to serve as waiters themselves. Others being in distress and unable to obtain a living came with the request saying, Please, since we can fill this office of servants and have no possession, have pity on us and advance money to us in order that we may go into the great cities and sell merchandise. Okay, so he's just explaining that all that he had done. This is just Job was a very generous individual. Job was a righteous, godly man. He blessed people. Job had many children, and his children would do as many children would do. And considering that, Job would, after they would go out and do things, Job would give sacrifices for them in case they did something that would be against God or against the house. He offered prayers up, just like many of us. Many of us are still blessed by the prayers of our grandparents or prayers of our mothers and fathers. Many of us are still protected because of those prayers. This was Job. Job was a righteous man because Job looked to do the righteous thing. Job was not a perfect man. Job was righteous because Job looked to do the righteous thing, and Job honored the laws of God. So the Judeo-Christian Bible speaks to Job being tempted by Satan, and it says the same thing in the Apocrypha, except for the Apocrypha gives a more vivid picture of what's going on. So, there was a convention or a get together in heaven, or where God was amongst Satan. Satan was invited, and many people think that Satan is some outcast that God doesn't communicate with, and that's just not so. Excuse me. That's just not so. It's not. You see right here, it says in the Judeo-Christian Bible that Satan, God asked Satan, where is he? Where's he been? And he said, I've been walking up and down in the earth, just looking around, managing my sheep. So in so many words, we somehow feel like Satan is this arch nemesis that God just does not, every time they see each other, they got to go to blows. And it is not that. There is order in the kingdom. Satan has a role. There is negatives and there's positives. And this is how you get to a balance. There is negatives and there's positives, and then there's that little bench in the middle that holds it up. It's as simple as that. So there is no boogeyman. There are just opposites. Nonetheless, Job is, they're up and they're observing people. See, this goes back to what I say about, all of God's children are loved. God loves all of God's children. Not one of us is loved more than the other. We all have the same amount of covering, which is the love. But God's attention is on some more than others. Why is God's attention on some more than others? Because there are some people that tap into the love. There are some people that tap into, by way of attention, by way of activity, their connection to God. And they began to seek that instead of being distracted by the stuff of this world and seeking the stuff of this world. And when you begin to seek that begins to seek you too. And it shines a light on you. It somewhat sets you apart. Because if you look at it as sheep, if you have billions of sheep and many of them are going in one direction, yet you have some that follow a different direction, there's not as many of them. So you do get more attention because you're doing something that many are not doing. And the more you lean in on it, and the more you aspire to perfect it, and the more you lean in on it and allow it to show itself in your life, the brighter the light is on you. And this is Job. So they're at this convention, or, this gathering, and God is, and the Apocrypha says it a different way. And this is why I wanted to use the Apocrypha, because in chapter 4 of the Testament of Job, it speaks to Job's testament to this. And it says here, chapter 4, verse 6. Job is doing an offering. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna do chapter 4, verse 3. And I said to them, take these as residue and pray for my children. Perhaps my sons have sinned before the Lord, speaking in haughtiness of spirit. We are children of this rich man. All these goods are ours. Why should we be servants of the poor? And speaking this in a haughty spirit, they may have provoked the anger of God. For overbearing pride is an abomination before the Lord. So I brought oxen as offerings to the priests at the altar, saying, may my children never think evil toward God in their hearts. This goes back to our grandmother's prayers, our mothers and fathers' prayers, our elders' prayers that they prayed upon us, that have blessed our lives. This is that. While I lived in this manner, the seducer came not to bear, while I lived in this manner, the seducer could not bear to see the good I did, and he demanded the warfare of God against me. And he came on me cruelly. First he burned up the large number of sheep, then the camels, and he burned up the cattle and all the herds, or they were captured, not only my enemies, but also by such as had received benefits from me. And the shepherds came and announced that to me. But when I heard it, I praised to God and did not blaspheme. And when the seducer learned of my fortitude, he plotted new things against me. He disguised himself as the king of Persia and besieged my city. And after he had led off all that were therein, he spoke to them in malice, saying in boastful language, this man Job, who has obtained all the goods of the earth and left nothing for others, has destroyed and torn down the temple of God. Therefore I will repay to him what he has done to the house of the great God. Now come with me, and we will pillage all that is left in his house. And they answered and said to him, he has 7 sons and 3 daughters. Take heed lest they flee into their lands, and they may become our tyrants, and then come over us with force and kill us. And he said, do not be afraid at all. I have destroyed his flocks and his wealth by fire. I have captured the rest, and behold, I will kill his children. And having spoken this, he went and threw the house on, my children and killed them. And my fellow citizens, seeing that what was said by him had become true, came and pursued me and robbed me and all that was in my house. And I saw with my own eyes the pillage of my house, and the men without culture, and without honor sat at my table and on my couches, and I could not remonstrate against them. For I was exhausted like a woman with her loins let loose from multitude of pains, remembering chiefly that this warfare had been predicted to me by the Lord through his messenger. And I became like one who was seeing the rough sea and adverse winds, while the lading of the vessel in mid-ocean is too heavy, casting the burdens into the sea, saying, I wish to destroy all this only in order to come safely into the city, so that I may take as a profit the rescued ships and the best of things. Thus I managed my own affairs. But there came another messenger and announced to me the ruin of my children, and I was shaken with terror. And I tore my clothes and said, the Lord has given and the Lord has taken, as it has deemed best to the Lord. Thus it has come to be. May the name of the Lord be blessed. And so there you have it. So that gives you a further analogy of what has gone on. And what I didn't mention is that God had come to Job and told Job what was going to happen. And I will read that to you. Chapter 1 of Job, verse 9. The beginning of my trial was thus. Near my house there was an idol of one worshipped by the people, and I saw burnt offerings constantly brought to him as a god. But when I pondered and said to myself, is this he who made the heavens and earth, the sea, and all of us? How will I know the truth? And in the night, as I lay asleep, a voice came and called, Joab, Joab, Jobab, Jobab, rise up, and I will tell you who is the one whom you wish to know. This, however, to whom the people bring burnt offerings and libations is not God, but this is the power and work of the seducer by which he deceives the people. And when I heard this, I fell on the earth and I prostrated myself, saying, O my Lord, who speaks for the salvation of my soul, please, if this is the idol of Satan, please let me go on and destroy it and purify this spot. For there is none that can be forbid me doing this, as I am the king of this land, so that those that live in it will no longer be led astray. And the voice that spoke out of the flame answered to me, you can purify this spot, but behold, I announce to you what the Lord ordered me to tell you. For I am the chief messenger of God. And I said, whatever will be told to his servant, I will hear. And the chief messenger said, thus speak the Lord, if you undertake to destroy and take away the image of Satan, he will set himself with wrath to wage war against you, and he will display all his malice against you. He will bring on you many severe plagues and take from you all that you have. He will take away your children and will inflict many calamities on you. Then you must wrestle like an athlete and resist pain, being sure of your reward and overcome trials and affliction. But when you endure, I will make your name renowned throughout all generations of the earth until the very end of the world. And I will restore to you all that you had, and the double part of what you will lose will be given to you, in order that you may know that God does not consider the person, but gives to each who deserves the good. And also to you will be given, and you will be put on a crown of amaranth, and at the resurrection you will awaken for continuous life. Then you will know that the Lord is just and true and mighty. Okay, so that's all the reading I'm going to do. Okay, so now we have a fuller understanding of the scripture. Okay, so a messenger comes to Job and tells Job these things will come to pass. It doesn't say this in the Judeo-Christian Bible, but it says it in the Testament of Job in the Apocrypha. And he speaks it, and after it's done, he knocks down the altar. So isn't this just like the enemy? Whenever you get to walking in your purpose, y'all, whenever you get a word from God and you begin acting on it, you begin to making it manifest in your life, here he comes. You're minding your business. You're tending your flock. And here he comes. And something, so Job goes and he breaks down the altar. And of course, these things come upon him. It doesn't make mention of this in the Judeo-Christian Bible. And what happens is, all the people that Job blessed, all of those people that once benefited from him, once praised him, now have become his enemies. He doesn't have a friend in the world that really is on his side. He begins to become plagued. All of these plagues began to hit him, one after another, all in like a day. All of this stuff happens to him. He loses all of his cattle. He loses all of his children. He loses his home. His wife becomes poor. She doesn't have any clothing. I mean, it's a bad situation. And Job becomes sick. He has boils all over him. He is just, he's living like a beggar. He's living on the earth in the dirt. And so much so that I believe there were 3 or 4 kings that came to visit Job. And they had heard about it because, back then, like I said, there was no radio and no newspaper. Well, there probably was some form of writing that they got, but there was no television. So everything was word of mouth. So by the time everybody was probably talking about it because Job was the biggest, he was the most powerful king in the East. It says it in the Bible. And he blessed everybody. So everybody knew of him. It wasn't as if they didn't know. The poor knew of Job. Because the poor were fed by Job. The poor were clothed by Job. They looked forward to going to be blessed by Job. So everyone knew of him, rich and poor. And when he became ill, and all of these things fell upon him, 3 or 4 kings came to visit him. And they had to anoint themselves with fragrance because he stunk so bad. He had open wounds on his body. He was just doing bad. He's in a terrible state. And they began to convey with him. And isn't it like people? Whenever something happens to you, they always think it's some kind of wickedness that has come upon you. I mean, it could be a normal life situation, but you get enough people around or people that don't really even like you, they will begin to, it could just be one person that spawns it on. That'll bring up, oh, well, they must be going through that because of this or that, or God don't like ugly. And they're the main ones living ugly. This is what Job was faced with. Job is faced with people that he was righteous to. That people that saw all of his walks and all of his works that should have vouched for him. That should have said, nah, this ain't right. Nah, Job is not, this is not a curse. Job is just, maybe this is a test. But people don't look at it like that. When you see something like that befall people, you automatically default to it being some sort of wickedness. And it could just very well be a Job situation where it's a test. It's a great test that this person is going through. And so he has these people come upon him and they began speaking in parables. They're going back and forth about, you imagine you're at the bedside of somebody that you don't even think is going to make it. You're not sitting up talking about what you're going to do next week. You're not talking about no fishing trip. You're not talking about going to the mall. You're talking about the real stuff. Life, God. Your relationship to God. And Job sticks to the fact that he has lived a righteous life. And these people that have come upon him, all of them unanimously are just looking at him like, how could you say such things with the state of affairs that you're in? You must have not done so. Because God would not put you in this situation had you been a righteous person. And now Job is in a situation where he's going back and forth with these people in all of his weakness, yet the fire is in him. And the fire in him is saying, no, I have lived a righteous life. I have done the best that I could with what I had. I will sit and speak these things to God. Matter of fact, where is God? I would like to have a conversation with God about this. This is Job. Job is bold. See, when you get in a situation, friend, I don't know if any of you have ever been in a really serious situation. I have had significant health issue come upon me, and it really made me look at my life, not in a way of begging and pleading to God for mercy and all this type of stuff. No, really looking at my life for what it is. What has my walk been in this earth? Like, really, what has Michelle Mayer's walk been in this earth? Have I been a malicious woman? Have I preyed on the downfall of other people? Have I rejoiced in that? Have I tried to help people and inspire people? I mean, these are things that I really had to look at. Because when you get to a place of pondering your life, you look at those types of things, friend. When you get to a place of pondering your life, I'm telling you, it'll make you think of some things you never even thought of. Things that you were too afraid to face. They're right here. This is Job. There's no more middleman. I'm going to go to church and pray it away. None of that. This is you and God. Having a heart to heart. Being accountable. Because nobody can be more accountable to the walk that you've had in your life than you and God. Because only you two know. So he's sitting here amongst his brethren who are low-key condemning him and saying, Job, I wanna agree with you, friend, but you need to come to terms with this. You must not have lived a righteous life because God would not put this on you. And Job is saying to them, you don't know God. You're looking at it from the wrong perspective. You cannot see what I see because you're not facing what I'm facing, and I'm going to explain it to you why. And Job goes through these parables, and he breaks it down. So much so that chapter 9, I want to read something to you. And it says here, so I don't know if I want to read all that, but nonetheless, Job is speaking to all of these individuals from a perspective that they don't face. They still thinking everything is promised. They're looking at it from a promissory perspective, from a long road perspective. And Job just ain't looking at it like that. What they're seeing befalling Job, there's no way Job can explain. You can't explain it. It's a solitary thing. And it's not even to be explained. These are the mysteries of life that go mysterious through generations. These are the mysteries of life that go mysterious through generations. The things that you don't ponder until you get to that place. My uncle passed. And I was in Atlanta, and some crows came to me. I know it's gonna sound crazy, y'all, but they did. They came to me. 3 crows came to me. And I was leaving a restaurant. When I walked into the restaurant, I knew my uncle was sick. And I had prayed on it. I said, God, please let me go see my uncle before he passes, because my grandmother passed away and I didn't get to see her, and it broke my heart. And I said, please don't let my uncle pass and I don't see him. Give me inclination and I will make my way to LA. Well, that on this day, I had went to this restaurant. I was getting out the car and I looked and I saw these 3 crows sitting on a trash dumpster. And I saw them and they were low-key chirping to each other. And I said, okay. I went in, ordered, got the food, whatever, came back out. The crows were now over the awning of the store, of the restaurant. So when I got in the car, I'm looking at, they were just going to town. I mean, I had never seen crows talking like that. I'm talking about they were going to town. And something in my spirit said, we got to get to California. We got to get home. And I said, okay. And I called my cousin. I found out how he was doing. We knew he was declining. I headed home. I headed back to LA. I got to LA, me and my daughter. And we stayed in LA. And he explained to me everything he experienced all the way through his transition. So that substantiates my, my remark as to there are some things when you're faced with things in this life, real things, not baloney. I'm talking about real things. Nobody else will understand, friend. Job is sitting here with boils all over his body. He's probably the weight of a 10-year-old. He's so skinny. Nobody thinks he's going to come back. He was the richest man in the East. Now he's living on the ground. He's all of his children have been killed. He doesn't have a place to live. His wife is begging. His wife had to cut her hair to get bread to feed them. His wife is bald. All this from being powerful and wealthy to this. So everybody's looking at him as if God is against him. Not knowing that God sent him this in a vision. He was informed of this before he went through it. And God had promised that once he go through it and come out of it, he will multiply his wealth. But he's in it. And everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got an opinion, and everybody is against him because there's no benefit in being on his side. He has nothing to offer them. Nothing. I chose chapter 4, verse 7 and 8. Verse 17 and 18. Which says, shall mortal man be more just than God? Shall a man be more pure than his maker? Behold, he put no trust in his servants, and his angels he charged with folly. That's powerful. That says a lot. Who does God trust? How does God prove you? We all saw what happened with the fallen angels. This is what they're referring to. We all saw how God's footmen, the closest to God that walked the earth, these angels came before God with messages. God called these angels before him to deliver his word so that they could come and deliver it to the children. And they corrupted that relationship. All of them that corrupted it. Rebelled against God. They betrayed God. So if God can't trust his angels, how does he trust man and woman? How does he know? A lot of us believe that God can somehow read our mind and all of this, and God could. God could search us. But friend, what I've learned from a searching, I've learned so much over the last year, is that it's like getting pieces to a puzzle that you just set aside. You got that piece over there, okay, you search it again, you get this piece. You search again, you get that piece. And you start building a structure from them. You don't just get a full criteria. God searches you by putting you in situations to see how you respond. Several different situations. Not just one kind. Several. Painful situations. And this was Job's complaint. Job says, I'm going through all of this. Just off me and let me come back again. That's what Job is saying. Instead of putting me through all of this. Am I going through all of this because of all of those that have come before me that betrayed? This is Job. This is Job in this book. Job is saying, you got to feel me. You have to understand where I'm coming from here. All of this because I loved you. All of this because I chose to do the righteous thing, even though I could have easily defaulted to the wrong. This is what I get. You got these. He said, wait a minute. He said, you've got these. Wait a minute. Chapter 4 of the Apocrypha, Testament of Job, verse 21. And my fellow citizens, seeing that what was said by him had become true, came and pursued me and robbed me of all that was in my house. And I saw with my own eyes the pillage of my house, and men without culture and without honor sat at my table and on my couches, and I could not remonstrate against them. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Oh, y'all don't understand. This right here, I'm telling you. Yo. Somebody got to understand. I understand it. I understand it. I understand it. He's saying, all because I loved. At the end of the day, it is because I loved. Had I not loved, I would not have been so dedicated. Had I not loved, I wouldn't have taken the chances. Come what may, I'm standing on the love. That's how much faith I got in the love. And this is what I get. Job, I want to go back to something. It says here, when he's saying, chapter 1, Testament of Job, verse 10. Then I poured and said to myself, is this he who made the heavens and earth, the sea, and all of us? How will I know the truth? And in that night, as I lay asleep, a voice came and called. All of this reminds me of Abram at the time, when he went to his father's idols and knocked them down. Before he did that, he pondered these same questions. Don't we all ponder these questions? All of us that really ponder it? These be the things that lead you to hard stuff. I'm telling you, they lead you to hard stuff. Job said, then I pondered and said to myself, wait a minute, before that he says, before 9, the beginning of my trial was this. This is what it says. Near my house, there was an idol of one worshipped by the people. And I saw burnt offering constantly brought to him as a god. And I pondered and said to myself, is this he who made the heavens and the earth and the sea and all of us? How will I know the truth? And in that night, as I lay asleep, a voice came. It came in a dream. You always see it coming, don't you? It's something else. It's something else. Nonetheless, Job endures. But Job is faced with realities. And a lot of people would think Job was being blasphemous, because when you are faced with these realities, your relationship with God changes. The way you talk to God changes. You're not coming like a beggar. Oh, please, Father, please. It is, but it's not. It is a conversation amongst somebody that knows you. Because in order to get to that place, friend, of Job being tested like that, you've had a walk. You ain't just started walking with God. And out of the blue, God puts you through all these types of tests. No. Your walk has been set apart from other people's walks. You're not on that main path. You're not. And you've been communing with God all along. It's like having a family member, a elder, grandparent, great-grandparent, what have you, or an elder that has power and wisdom in your life. And you need to get information from them constantly. And they see you out either on the job or in the world or whatever, and they see you trying to get it done, and they kind of honor the fact that your tenacity about it. The spotlight is on you. They're watching you. So probably because you keep coming back with more and more communication, your attention is on them. So their attention is on you. So you know your father's voice. You know your mother's voice. And they know yours. And even in your frustrated states, you can have real conversations with them without, even though you are fearful and you're honoring them and you're respectful to them, you've had a relationship so long that you can have a certain type of conversation with them. Especially when you don't understand something. Like Job. This is what was making all of these people that came upon him so perplexed as to how are you talking like this? Because their walk was not like Job's walk. They hadn't done the acts that Job had done. They had probably not been in communion with God as Job had. They probably had not pondered God the way Job did. So yeah, they see this God as a fearful taskmaster that they only do the minimum to appease. But Job pushes the envelope and says, I want to see you. Who are you? I've been looking for you. And we've been in communication, and I know we have. And I'm looking for you now. And what is going on here? Where have I gone wrong? Why would you allow this to come upon me? Show me the truth. Show me the error in my ways. Make it clear to me. Please make it clear so I know. This is Job. You ever been there? Have you? Have you ever been there? This is where the rubber meet the road, friend. That's where the rubber meet the road. Job said, I've invested just as much into this. What is going on here? What is going on? I know you said this would come, but what the heck? In the Bible, it doesn't say that God told Job all of this. In the Bible, it just says Satan wanted to tempt him. God put Satan on him. And Job is like, why? What do you do when God sends you through things and he does like the Bible says he did? He sends the devil on you. He ain't give you no initial communication as to why and what will occur. He just does it. And it's confusing. And you feel attacked. Like Job. And rightfully so. By people that don't even ponder God like you. That don't even get you. They think you're a fraud. They thinking Job is a fraud. They looking at Job like he's a snake oil salesman. That done got caught up. And now he's being punished. When it could be nothing but the opposite. Nothing but the opposite. But you can't communicate that to them because they don't understand it. They only see it from their perspective. They couldn't even imagine it. Yet he sits there in all of his weakness and debates with them. Gives them jewels that they could actually take and ponder. And that they will. Because in the Bible it says that God comes and he speaks to Job. And to them in front of Job. And corrects them in their error. Because how else could they be corrected? At that point, God had lessened Job to nothing. Even if God, as he did, turned the tide on Job and lifted him back up and blessed him. Job couldn't have come upon the people and said, oh, God told me to tell you that you were wrong and you're thinking of me. They would have still stood in that and said, oh, God just had mercy on you. Or God, something. God had to speak it to them and correct them openly, because they would have never known the error in their ways. They had condemned this man, had made profound parables, had pondered all kind of thoughts in their mind based on nothing, based on sin. All the while, this man laid his truth at their feet and they kicked it because of his situation. That was really a test. A lot of times, friend, God will allow you to see somebody else's walk just for God to see how you interpret it. It's like a test for you too. Everybody learns a lesson. That's how God moves. God doesn't just do something for one person where nobody else will be touched or that he won't get the glory. If you look in this book, nowhere is it written where he does that. That's not how God moves. God is a strategist. God is a strategist, friend. We're looking at this text thousands of years later, and we're benefiting from it even now. How many Jobs have come after this Job? How many Jobs do you know in your life that you're probably condemning? But that just may be going through a test for you to look at and see the power of God instead of condemning. This book was written thousands of years ago, and everything in it still is relevant today. How many of our testimonies that we're living through right now are Bible worthy? Where is the new Bible? Who is writing it? Where is it? And who is writing it? Because you got many Jobs walking around here right now. Not many. You got some walking around here right now that you are condemning over things you yourself couldn't even aspire to. That they're aspiring to that you couldn't even do. That you could not even do yourself. In their totality. You got to look at the totality. You must look at Job's totality as God did. And that is why God tested him. That is why God allowed it. Because God knew his heart. And one thing about somebody's heart is that when it is fixed on God, it is fixed. Because before God puts you on the front line to showcase you to the world and for him to test you in front of the world, he's tested you many times before that. Many times before that. You just might have a bigger audience during that test, the new test. But you done came through many tests before that. This is my sermon on Job today, y'all. It's a powerful story, and I could keep going on and on and on about it. It's a story of perception. It's a story of judgment. It's a story of knowing. It ain't even about faith. This story right here is about knowing. Job knew. See, Job's walk, when his situation that he was in, it wasn't no faith. It wasn't no I hope faith. This is knowing. You're not going you will never get me to admit to that. No. I know, like I know, like I know, like I know, like I know. This is what I did. This is who I am. And this is what I am about. Period. Shortcomings and all. Because we all got them. But I stand on this. That was Job. We're loved more than we'll ever know. We are loved more than we ever know. And we are currently writing a Bible. Don't even know it. Writing a Bible. Many great ones have come and were slaughtered writing a Bible. Be good to yourselves. Peace and love.